Welcome to the Spark Creativity Teacher Podcast, a podcast for English teachers in search of creative teaching strategies delivered in the amount of time it takes to drive to your first day of school or hit the trails after it. I'm Betsy Potash, and I'm glad to welcome you to episode 14. It's the third in my Back to School mini-series, and it's all about secondary classroom decor. Secondary classroom decor can be a touchy subject. It's easy to consider decorations the domain of primary educators, or feel afraid of being judged by students or other teachers for trying to be cute or not treating students as near adults. Well, in this episode, I'll be sharing ideas for decorating your classroom in fun and creative ways that honor the age of your students and your own life and personality as well. I still love to work in a beautiful space, and I'm a lot older than your students, so I'm willing to bet they'll be happy if you try out a few of these ideas. So we're going to start with the very first thing students see when they walk into your classroom, and that is the door. Chances are you've seen some fun roundups of primary school doors on We Are Teachers or Pinterest lately, but should you or should you not decorate your door for secondary students? Well, I think you should. Students walk in the door, it's the first thing they see, the first impression they get, and it's fun if you can do it. So here are 4 quick ideas. Number 1, a student photo collage. I always like to have my students take a group picture on the first day of school. I invite them to choose any location on campus and we make a little expedition. I've had students climb trees, sit in the bleachers, spell out my name with their bodies on the baseball field, and I took it from up above them. All kinds of funny things. I take those pictures and I have them printed and I put them up right away. This can be a fun thing to display on your door, and then as the year goes on, you can add pictures of them doing performances, pictures of them at poetry slams or with projects that they're really proud of, or just pictures from workshop or discussion in class. It's a fun way to document their learning and to show them that you care about them. So you can create just a beautiful collage on your door to welcome students every day. Another idea, this is one that I'm doing this year, is to put up coloring pages on your door. So adult coloring books are everywhere. Chances are you've already got one sitting around on a dusty shelf somewhere with one page colored. Cut out a bunch of pages, put them up on your door, and put a little jar of colored pencils nearby and see what happens. Maybe by the end of the year, you'll have something really lovely. That's what I'm hoping. I think this is going to be a fun task for students who are a little bit early, for students who come to hang out at different times of the day, or students who are early finishers. It's just like a fun little diversion, and it's also it's a piece of decor that will grow. It'll start out empty, and by the end of the year, hopefully it'll be something quite incredible. Number 3, I've seen quite a lot of teachers decorate their doors with an Instagram collage, and I love this idea of putting square photos up on your door with little captions. And what I'm going to suggest is that you make it an Instagram door that everyone contributes to. So ask every single student as homework on the first night to choose one photo from their life, cut it into a square, and add a little caption. And then cover your door with them from all your sections. You'll have this amazing snapshot of your community, and students will see it every day as they walk in. All right, last idea. This is the simplest. Cover your door in white paper. Put some markers out or colored pencils and invite students to put up the titles of every book they read this year. So as they read, every time they finish a book, they come in and they add it to your book title collage. And you'll see by the end of the year, the huge range of books that students have read. And especially if you're going to be recommending books in class for free choice reading, or you have an independent reading library, this is a fun way not only to see what your students are reading and for them to see what each other are reading, but also to be recommending books. You can invite them to put little blurbs about the book, or to put big stars around it or a big heart around it if they really loved it. And that way, each day as students are walking in, they're immediately confronted by dozens of book titles, and hopefully by the end of the year, hundreds of book titles. And you can put up the books that you read too, and that'll be fun for students to see. All right, my second idea for you today is to decorate using book displays. Book displays are so colorful, and it's easy to keep them age appropriate. There's not going to be any feeling from students that they're too cute for secondary. So create a bookshelf or create a long table with a display section on top, and put out your favorite books and change them up. They're colorful, they're interesting, they invite students to interact. It's a really great way to make your classroom more exciting and also be promoting that wonderful thing we English teachers want to promote, reading. I like to use a tool called Big Huge Labs online. There's a tool within this site called the inspirational poster, or maybe it's motivational poster tool. And all you have to do is upload a photo and it'll put it in one of those sort of motivational poster formats, and you can write your own caption. So I use it for book recommendation posters. I take pictures of different faculty around the school holding up a book they like, and I upload those pictures into the motivational posters, and then I make the caption something like, "Read the Road, Mr. Johnson recommends this amazing classic," or whatever. I try to come up with a little teaser underneath the picture. And if you get 5 or 6 of those up and you've got these colorful books, that makes a great aspect of your secondary decor. I will link the Big Huge Labs motivational poster tool on the show notes for this week. If you haven't listened before, then I'll just let you know. The show notes are at www.nowsparkcreativity.com. And you just click on the podcast tab at the top of the page and choose today's episode. And that's where you'll find any links that I mention, as well as an outline of the show. My next idea for you was inspired by a colleague I had when I was teaching abroad in Bulgaria. He devoted a fairly large section of his wall to pictures from his travels all around Europe. They were pictures of himself and his partner and beautiful places where they had been. And I know it inspired so much conversation between his students and him. And I think having an about me section of your wall somewhere in your classroom is a really helpful thing. If students can see what you care about and the places you've been and the people that you're close to, that's going to help them relate to you, and it's going to help them get some conversations going with you about things besides books. And personally, I think the more you know students and the more you can develop relationships with them, the easier it is to teach them well. And so this is a piece of decor that can actually really fuel your teaching in many ways. So just like a blog has a little picture of the blogger and a little blurb about them, do that as a teacher. Have an about me section of your classroom. This idea comes from my own life experience. I have been a traveler for many years, and every time I go anywhere, I pick up a postcard or 2 or 3. And when my friends go places and they send me postcards, I save them. And so I've built up this postcard collection from my travels, and also just from fun little shops that I visit and art galleries that I go to. I pick out a favorite painting and get a postcard of it. So I have this huge postcard collection, and I've actually written a whole blog post about how I use these postcards in class, and I'll link to it on my show notes. But one of my favorite ways is to create displays on the wall, and I do different things, different years, but having all these images, these beautiful places, these beautiful pieces of art that you can draw on to create different bulletin boards or inspiring collages of places students might like to visit someday can be a really cool piece of decor. You can add quotations about travel, literary quotations that are about beautiful places around the world. And this kind of display, I believe, can really help broaden students' horizons. Maybe they've never left their hometown, and seeing this collage of all the places that you've been and the places that people you know have been is going to help inspire them to want to learn more about the world and see the world. Finally, my last idea for you is to create a hall of fame of student work in your classroom. I love this. It gives students the models they need to reach high with their work. If you collect the best projects, the best papers from years and years of different classes and display them on a shelf somewhere in your room or on a big bulletin board, I think it's so inspiring for students. I love mine. I'm going to put a little video of some of my students' best work that I've showcased over the years in the show notes today. And I'm also going to link a free banner that I made that you can print out and put above your Hall of Fame. And you can start collecting this year if you haven't already. Chances are, even if you don't have a Hall of Fame, you have a little pile somewhere of the projects your students have done that really knocked your socks off.
Rather than keep them in an old dusty drawer and only pull them out when you're about to do that project, make them a core component of your classroom decor and surround students with incredible work from years past throughout the different units that you do. I think it's a really great way to decorate your classroom and a good way to keep your students thinking about just how high they can reach. Thanks for tuning in today. If you'd like to check out the show notes for further reading and all the links I mentioned during the show, just head to www.nowsparkcreativity.com and click on the podcast tab at the top of the page. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes so you'll automatically get the rest of this back to school series, as well as all the great shows to come after that. I'd love for you to share photos and stories of your classroom and back to school experience in my growing Facebook group, Creative High School English. Join colleagues from around the world and enjoy their support as you introduce more creativity to your classroom this year.